Hello, welcome. My name is Dr. Amy Patel. I'm the Associate Editor of Digital Media for the Journal of the American College of Radiology, and we welcome you to the next installment of our virtual journal club. Today, we'll be discussing tips for a successful match, optimizing the rank list. Now more than ever, this is a very, very important time in the lives, particularly of medical students, as they decide where and what they want to do in terms of match. So today we have this incredible panel of esteemed experts where we will be diving in on this topic. So first, I'd like to introduce all of our esteemed panelists. First, let's have Dr. Catanzano introduce herself.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. My name is Shah Catanzano. I am the program director of the DR residency at the UMass Chan Medical School Bay State, which is the western campus of the UMass Medical School in Worcester. And I have been a program director for almost 11 years now.
Thank you for being here today. We appreciate your time and your expertise. Dr. Shah.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Patel. I'm Neal. I'm a PGY1 over at UVA surgery right now. I'll be going to Vanderbilt next year to start residency in diagnostic radiology.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. Dr. Gomez.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gomez. I am a program director of UT San Antonio, but exiting soon after 13 years of being a program director in 3 different institutions, but still officially a program director, but on my way out. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And last but not least, Dr. Gupta.
Hi, I'm Yasha. I'm a PGY 5. I guess I'm a chief now at Mount Auburn Hospital. So hopefully 5 years of experience will give me some good perspective for today's discussion.
Oh, I'm sure it will. All right, so let's dive in. Our first topic is building a rank system. So my first question is for Neal. What tips do you have on building a rank system?
Yeah, so I'd like to just go ahead and start off by saying Yasha actually just released a video, and I don't want to be plugging things, but it was a great video, and it actually talks a lot about these things. So after this, you can go and check that out. But one of the biggest things I'd say is that reputation really doesn't matter. I know that, the more you talk with your peers and stuff, reputation ends up being a center point of conversation. And I think that kind of ends up being a mistake. It's a mistake that I made too, So that's the biggest thing I'd say. I think it's most important to, rather than try and rank programs, try and rank what's important to you. I think that's what really helped me the most to figure out my system. So I actually went in, I tried to decide, okay, what's most important to me? And one of the biggest things that I thought would make me happy was the location. Am I going to be close to my family? Am I going to be close to my hometown, my loved ones, things like that? And then I knew what kind of city I wanted to live in. So these were things that were very important to me. And then beyond that, academics was very important to me. So right off the bat, I knew, okay, I want an academic program. And so I was able to go through and kind of rank the things that was most important to me. Did they have an education track? Innovation is something that, really drew me into radiology. So I wanted a place that had some kind of innovation track or laboratory. So once I was able to try and figure out what's most important to me, the ranking of programs kind of just fell in line, and it became a little bit easier than trying to just take a grouping of programs and saying, okay, I'm going to rank this one, then this one. So I think really trying to create a system based on what you're ranking is what allows you to get that true ranking. And, at the end of the day, I know it's tough and it's a cliche, but I think you really do, when you're in between programs, you kind of have to go with your gut. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
Great. That's just really invaluable advice. Yasha, would you like to build on that or add anything?
Absolutely. So as Neal said, you really want to think about what's most important to you. So I'm not going to continue talking about that. But sort of, I find that what's really hard is thinking like, I would be happy at a lot of these programs, right? I think that's kind of how a lot of people come away, is like everything starts to blur together. So how do you differentiate programs and how do you make it into your rank list? Well, the way I sort of did it was I created 2 separate rank lists where one was purely objective. Like if I gave geography 10 points and this was in the exact spot that I wanted, and I just created a straight point system, what would my rank list look like? And then if I went more based on how I feel about a program, what did my rank list look like then? And that kind of helps figure out what's it even kind of tells you what's more important to you and how the fit really, plays into that rank list. So if you're struggling with a couple of different programs, maybe do something more objective, see how that feels to you. And if it doesn't feel quite right, you might be able to figure out more easily how that will play into your rank list.
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. Being on the other side, Dr. Gomez and Dr. Catanzano, any advice that you can impart to those that are sort of struggling with their rank list?
Sure, I'm happy to give some advice on that. I fully agree with you that you have to figure out what your core values are and what is important to you. The name is really secondary. And I think that a lot of us place a lot of emphasis on big name, legacy programs. And there is certainly benefit to that. But there also is benefit to feeling a program that really meets your needs and what you are hoping to get out of your training. So if your interest is really scholarship in an environment where you are supported and feel comfortable and realize that you have a lot in common with those residents, but they may not have the name, well, that may be more important to you. And I think discounting places just because they don't have a large name is really less important these days, particularly if you look at where they are going for their fellowships. So if somebody has really strong fellowship placements, even if they don't have a very large academic name, it's all the end at the end of the day, it's the same. You're going to have the same outcomes. So I think it really is, where do you feel comfortable and it feels like it meets what you're looking for in a program.
I guess my 2 cents is most of our programs are very similar. That's why we have the ACGME to regulate what we do. And trust me, and I'm sure Tara thinks the same. They're very strict, and you have to do a lot of stuff to keep your residency accredited. And that's not to count the GME office. So I don't think that choosing a place because of a name or anything like that is in your best interest. You have to look at other things that we're going to discuss today. That location, a lot of other things that are really important, but definitely not the name. Just try to look what is best for you and your family, and try to foresee yourself in a few 4 or 5 years at least, and what things could happen if you have a family or kids and all that stuff. It's really important to take into consideration. I've been a program director for many years and also a fellowship director, and I've trained fellows that have graduated from small programs, big name programs, and they're all been excellent. They're all been, really good. And I can't say that, okay, those people that graduated from, I don't know, over there are better than the people who graduated from here. So I have to agree with that. There are many other important things you should keep in mind.
Yes, I think if, we all went around and, talk about what we did at that time and what was most important to us when we made our rank list, I think, we would differ significantly. For me, it was geographic location, and I ended up, being in a program that wasn't huge, the University of Kansas, Wichita, but I wouldn't have traded those 4 years in the world. I had the best program director, the best training. There were no fellows. I got my hands dirty on procedures early. So I really echo all of your sentiments that I think the fit is most imperative, and it's not necessarily the name and just what you can accomplish in any program of any size is quite amazing. So I really appreciate your advice on all of that. Building on that, and this question I'll first direct it to Yasha, and then others can chime in. How important do you think it is to be honest with yourself when building your rank system? Maybe you feel the pressure of, oh, I need to be ranking, maybe one of the more large academic institutions, but I'm really feeling connected to this community-based program. What are your thoughts on honesty?
Oh my gosh, I think it's everything, right? Because that's really what's going to define your happiness over the next 4 or 5 years. And I think your happiness and how strong you feel like about your program, I think that really contributes to your success as a resident and in your career. Because a happier resident, you're going to perform better. You're going to be excited to go to work. You're going to put in the effort that you need to. You're not going to dread going to work every day. And that really will affect your career more than going to a place like if you go to a huge academic institution or whatever it is that you thought would make you happy, and then you end up hating it every day and all you can think about is going home and you just don't even want to be there, that's going to affect how you work, right? And how you perform. So I think it's really important, like exactly what you mentioned. I mean, go to a place where you're going to be happy, go to a place where you're going to be successful, because that's ultimately more important than what it says on your resume at the end of the day. It's really about who you are and how you feel. And I think that's why all of us, you know, we've all been through it at this point. That's why we emphasize choosing a place where you will be happy. And that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be what makes your best friend happy. And that doesn't mean it's going to be what makes your family happy, even at the end of the day. It's all about what you want. And the second thing I'll add to that is like 4 years, and it's really 5 years, right? If we think about intern year too, it's a really long time. Like I know it's easy to think like it's temporary and it'll be done, but at the same time, it's semi-temporary, I would say, where there is an end date, but it's 5 years away. And so just constantly having that mindset of like only this many more days left, it's really a long time to be somewhere. And if you're not happy, those days will feel very, very long. And the life situation that you may be in on day one, like even just thinking about myself, I came into residency single. I ended up getting engaged, married, and now I'm pregnant at the end of it, right? So the things that I need in a program are they change. And so being at a place that's flexible, and these are the things that I was sort of looking for when I was applying, but you don't really have any way of knowing what you're going to need over the next 5 years. So it's important to go to a place where you feel supported and happy. And that's all about just being honest with yourself and what you need, because those 5 years, they're long.
Great advice. Others?
I think Yasha kind of crushed that one. I'd echo a lot of what she just said. Matching at the Doximity #1 program isn't what's going to make you happy or your right fit. It might feel great for 5 minutes, but after that, it's really going to come, like you said, you have 4 to 5 years at this program. You really need to find what your needs are and which program or institution is going to meet those needs. And I'm kind of going to take the opposite end of the spectrum here as well, in the sense that it's also easy while we're ranking programs, and something I face that sometimes, you might have reach programs or programs that you're hoping to get an interview at, and you do end up getting those interviews. And then when it comes time to ranking, you sit down and you're like, well, wait, I didn't think I was going to get that interview. I'd love to go to this program. It's a great fit for me, but I really wasn't expecting this interview. And now you face the dilemma of, do they actually want me? Was this a fluke? And I think it starts to bring up the question that many of us have, in that, well, shoot, should I actually rank them #1? They truly are my #1 program. I want to be here more than anywhere else, but how do I know they really want me? Was this a fluke? So you end up ranking them lower. We try to game the system, and a lot of studies have been done on this. You can find them. I'll try and share them later. But there is no advantage to trying to game the system. It's something that crossed my mind as a DO. I said, okay, you know what? This program has never taken a DO before. Should I really be ranking them? Am I really going to be able to match here? And so I started ranking some of those programs lower, and I really had to talk to some mentors, sit down, think about it. And they're like, you're making a complete mistake here. So, be true to yourself. If you got an interview, you got it because you deserved it. And so rank what's true to you. There's no point in gaming the system, because it's only going to harm you.
And just to piggyback off of that, you actually brought up exactly what I wanted to mention, which is the imposter syndrome. I think particularly for women, although it is very well recognized in men as well, having the imposter syndrome and feeling like you shouldn't rank a program, or that you are never going to be accepted there, or that you shouldn't really try to go there, is not the way to look at it. I certainly suffered it when I was applying for my residency program. I went to school in Ireland, and as a foreign graduate, it was very challenging to go to a program and say, wow, this is a big name program. I can't believe I got an interview here. I'm never going to be comfortable. They're going to see right through me. They're going to know that it's not the right fit, or that I'm not adequate. Don't let your imposter syndrome stop you. If you find a program that you really love and you think will be good for you, that it will be supportive to what your needs are, matches your core values, is somewhere that you can succeed, go for it. Don't let imposter syndrome stop you.
I'm just going to add real quick, because look, rank whoever you like the most first. This is really very simple. The match works your way. I don't have, so program director, I don't have a way to find out if you're going to rank me high or not, unless you would send me a letter of intent. And those are not too many that you get. Second of all, do what's best for you. Look, I've been a mentor for many years, and sometimes I have, students who's like, well, I feel bad not ranking your program because you've been my mentor. You've been so nice, and you helped me so much, and I want to rank your program, but I don't think San Antonio, where I am right now, is the place for me. Well, don't think about me or about your mentor or about whoever. You got to think about yourself and your family and what's best for you, and don't let all these things, influence your decision. This is really a decision about yourself and about your training. So don't let anybody try to convince you of what you don't feel sure, and I don't think it should ever cross your mind anything about imposters, anything that is like, well, I'm not going to rank them high because I don't think they're going to rank. Who cares? Who cares how they're going to rank you? That makes no difference on how you should rank your programs. Zero difference. Even if you think they're going to rank you last, but you really like the program, rank them first. It's not going to make a difference. Trust me. It's not going to make zero difference. Nothing.
Can I add one more thing to this? Sorry. And Neal's comment about the REACH programs reminded me of this. Like, just because you got an interview at this amazing program that you didn't think you would get an interview at, that also doesn't mean you have to rank them number one. So that's something to consider too, is like, even if you had these really high expectations and, oh my God, I can't believe I got an interview here. It's okay if you come out of it feeling a little bit disappointed, and it's okay to not rank them number one too.
That's great advice. Thank you for adding that, because I think it was an important point to make. So, all right. So transitioning a little bit here, we're going to shift the focus to IR versus DR. Now, for applicants applying IR, it can be sometimes tricky. Should you rank all your IR programs? Should you alternate IR DR? First I'm going to start with Tara. Do you have any tips on best how to tackle this?
I think it's such a challenge. I don't think that there's great advice out there, honestly, on either the applicant side or the program side. If you really love IR and you think you're a competitive candidate and it's something that you just can't imagine not doing and that you wouldn't be happy in DR, then I would say rank all your IR programs first. If you are geographically bound, it probably makes sense to alternate so that you have a better chance of being in the region that you need to be in. But again, it's all about figuring out what's important to you. Don't rank a program on either side if you hate it and would be completely unhappy there. If this is something that, even though it is an IR program and you're not feeling really confident about the other ones you've applied to, but you just think you're going to be miserable, don't rank it. You're better off going into a DR spot than into an IR DR spot in some place that you just don't think you're going to get adequate training or something that meets what you need.
It's great advice. Angel, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think that this has been all the talk, right, about DR versus IR, and like, you go to an interview and you don't want to show the DR people that you don't like DR because you're IR. I don't think any of that matters. I feel like Tara said, it's a decision you have to make. If you really, I've had students that come to me and say, look, I want to do IR, doesn't matter what. Even if I have to go to, I don't know, whichever place, I'd rather go there than take my chance in a DR and go into ASIR. I wouldn't think that's smart, but if that's your decision, then rank all your IR programs first and then all your DR. If a DR program is going to rank you first, you're going to match somewhere, because if somebody ranks you first, you're guaranteed that you're going to match as long as you rank those people somewhere in your list. So if there's a DR program that likes you a lot, that spot is going to be there for you if you don't match in all your IR spots. So, but again, if you're geographically constrained, like Tara said, then it's probably you're going to have to think about, what is most important to you. But in terms of IR, DR, I think that it's a decision. You want to do IR, we'll rank all the IR first. And then just look, we've been doing this ESIR for a few years now, and I've still to meet a person that wants to do ESIR and doesn't get in. I still don't know that person. At least in my program and all the programs that I know closely, I still don't know the person that goes into DR and cannot do IR. So I don't think it's that much of a big deal. I think that people are like, I think IR right now is a fad and people want to do it and it just sounds very cool. But I think that even if you end up in DR, you're going to be able to do IR if you choose to do it. And let me tell you something. We have had several residents that go to IR and ended up switching to DR because this is, once you start doing DR, the first thing you do, wait a minute, I like Mammo a lot, or I like this a lot. I thought I like IR, but I like this a lot. So don't sweat it that much. I think that's what, if you want to do IR, you'll be able to do it. And don't be sweating about where am I going to match if I rank IR or DR first. Just see what's your priority and then rank accordingly. But even if you match in DR, you're going to be okay.
Thanks for that advice. It was really, really great. Neal, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I'd love to comment on this one because this is actually something I had a lot of trouble with because I was an IR DR applicant, and I was torn. Do I rank IR first? Do I rank 5 IR then 5 DR? And when interview season rolled around, I said I'm set on IR, 100%. And the number of times I've said I'm 100% on something, and then changed my mind is 100 times. But I think like Dr. Catanzano said, everybody has a different situation, so it's impossible for me to come out and say that this is what you guys should do. This is the system. And like Dr. Gomez said, and I heard this on every single interview I went on, never has any of the programs I interview with, they all said, never have we had a DR resident who said they were interested in IR that we didn't make room for. Even if all of our residents were interested in IR, somehow we found room for them. They never faced a situation where, residents were competing with one another that, okay, there's 3 of us that are interested in IR, but there's only 1 IR spot. What are we going to do? I never heard that. So when it came to it, I actually took the alternative route. And this is, again, my personal situation. And I think everybody needs to find what is most beneficial to them. And that goes back to, what's going to make you happiest, what's going to get you your best fit. But for me, I realized that it was easiest for me to focus on DR. I got to do a couple of IR rotations. And one of the biggest things I realized was I didn't know what kind of IR I liked. And I didn't think that it was possible for me to figure that out in 1 year. There's all the arterial work and all the oncology work, and that's not something we need to get into right now. But I realized that the perfect situation for me was being able to match into DR, finding that perfect DR program, and then sliding into ESIR. And, my 3rd or 4th year, then hopefully I could figure out, okay, what's the next best program for me? And I get to refigure out my fit. And so I actually ended up ranking, groups of DR, and then I would follow by a couple of IR programs and then groups of DR again. And I thought that's what would land me at my perfect program. That being said, I have a number of friends who ranked only IR or who ranked IR at one program, then DR, IR, DR. So I think you really just need to sit down and figure out, again, what's going to make you happiest and go from there.
I think that's great advice. And, it's so fresh for you. So I'm so glad that you chimed in and shared your experience. So I hope that those of you out there that are having this dilemma with IR and DR glean some pearls from our expert panelists tonight. So I want to now shift gears a little bit more into the world of couples matching. So this question is first directed towards Yasha. Do you have any tips on couples matching, whether you desire to match regionally or at the same institution?
So I personally did not couples match, but I did ask as many people as I could about this because I know that couples match is sort of like its own beast to tackle. And in terms of matching at the same institution or regionally, I think a lot of that starts when you start getting interviews and you start asking like, hey, I got my partner has an interview here. Is there a way that I could also interview or couples matching, etc.? But when it comes to making the rank list, I think the most important thing, like I feel like we're past that point now. And now you really have to think about what is the most important to you and your partner? Is it being in the same city? Is it the fact that one person wants to do something really competitive afterwards and the other person is okay following you there? Is it that you're both going to be happy no matter where you match? You know what I mean? Like, are you okay with being apart for a few years? And the advice that I gleaned from my friends was that you really need to be very honest with yourself and your partner about what you are looking for in a residency program. Because if you are not, then you might end up becoming very resentful of your situation. And that's really the last thing that you want, is not only not liking where you matched, but also the situation that you're in too. So really be honest with and very transparent about what you're looking for. And I think one of the best ways that I heard to do that was to actually create individual rank lists based on what you want. So if I were matching with my husband, for example, I would make my rank list and then he would make his just individually. And then we could see, why did I rank this number one? What was there that I wanted? And he would do the same. And maybe we could figure out in that way what our priorities are. Like, is it more important that we are together and one of us has to sacrifice something? Or is it more important that we both can chase our dreams, do whatever we want? And if we are apart for a few years, that's what it'll be. But the main thing is communication and transparency, and just, being okay with the situation at the end of the day. But those are my best pieces of advice that I heard. I don't know if anyone else has better advice than that.
I guess wow, I've dealt with a lot of students that are doing couples match through the years, and this depends on a lot of things, right? What specialties are they applying? Sometimes there's even both in radiology, but sometimes there's other specialties, and it's very stressful. And I don't have any numbers that I can cite, but I think that most of the time, in my experience, it works out one way or the other. The things that, Yasha talked about the aspect of how you should deal with your partner and trying to figure this out. But from this side, I have a lot, I get a lot of questions through the years. So I've gotten a lot of questions on how do I increase my chances? So me and my partner both end at the same place. And I think obviously it's very important you have to up the communication more so than if you were not doing couples match. I would, if you both guys the same place, obviously if you guys have an interview, both of you guys will send letters of intent, because that will increase, your chances. I think when I receive a letter of intent from somebody who's doing couples match, I automatically will call the other program director from the other program and tell them, look, I have this person that we really want, and he really wants to come here, and he's doing couples match. So if you rank them high, they're going to match. You're going to have a sure match. And of course, I as a program director of radiology, I can't tell what the program director of urology is going to do or whatever other specialty is, but there's a sort of camaraderie between program directors of an institution, because we meet and GME, meetings, and we know them, and sometimes we go to activities together, and there's some sort of camaraderie there. When we talk to each other, people tend to listen, and that helps when the program director gets the phone and calls. So that's something that you want to make sure in your communication. Look, I'm doing couples match, and this is the person. I've done a lot of things. I've done people that I'm interviewing in radiology, and I call the program, they tell me in the interview, well, I'm doing couples match with somebody in this specialty, and I call them and say, look, this person applies doing couples match. Would you mind just taking a look at the application? Because in this process, just taking a look at the application is a win, because sometimes your application is just, nobody looks at it because we have thousands of them. So that's something that, and on the other hand, I have other program directors from other specialties that call me and say, look, we have somebody on interview, then I at least will look at the application. So communication is key. And then after that, obviously, you're going to have to find some alternatives, like we end up in the same city, or we end up in the same city, or if we don't, what is acceptable to me? For example, I live in San Antonio, and maybe acceptable is San Antonio and Houston, or San Antonio and Austin, which is 1 hour away. But maybe Dallas is too far because it's 5 hours away. Maybe it's within the same state, and you have to work those permutations. And it takes time, but you have to do it. But my recommendation is that communication, and make sure that you relay the information on doing couples match. People will help you. I'm sure of that. I've done it for a lot of years, and people are willing to help you, but they got to know what's going on.
Anything to add, Tara, as a program director?
The only thing that I would say is I have had a couple of cases where people have couples matched only to have not been a couple by the time they have reached their residency program, because it is, there is at least an 18-month gap in between when you're putting in your rank list and when you're going to go to this program. And that can be really challenging for the person who ranked your program and didn't actually want to be there, but wanted to be regional or at the same institution as their partner, who then either didn't come or worse, did come. And that's awkward. So not to be a Debbie Downer, but just think about that, if you're matching with a partner and there's a program that you're going to rank because you want to be in the same place with them, but you're going to hate it, have that conversation and think twice about it.
I think that's great advice and candid advice. I commend you for being candid about that, because I think that there may be some out there that would not be. So I'm sure that some who are watching today are benefiting from that advice. So thank you for sharing that. So now I'm going to switch gears a bit to assessing fit. So my first question here is for Angel, and then anybody can kind of jump in. How do you assess the fit of the program, especially these last couple of years with the virtual interviews? It could be particularly difficult.
Oh boy, when we started doing this with Yasha and Neal, I think that's the question. When the pandemic started, I think that's the question we got the most. How are you going to assess fit and culture in the world of virtual living, whatever? I don't. The question is not really clear to me, because I think that most of the students, unless they rotate in your institution, they really don't get a feel of the culture. You can get a feel of a culture in half a day of interview and going to dinner with the residents. I don't think it's enough time for you to be able to see the little details of what's going on. So at the end of the day, I don't think it it makes much of a difference. But you have to try to separate things that you like location and brand name of the institution and the educational pathways and that you might like, or maybe the program offers an MBA that you want to do, or maybe the program you're interested in some specialty and that program to be very strong because of the faculty. You have to separate that from what we call the fit and the culture, and the culture is more like a gut feeling. Am I going to fit in there? And the people, am I going to feel comfortable? Am I going to feel very, wanted? And it comes down to how much interest they put on you. That's it. That's all that matters. I mean, if a program, including the program director, the residents, or the other faculty, you think that they don't put much interest on you during the interview and to any communication, you're probably not going to think it's going to be a good fit. But of course, if they're industrious about trying to get to know you and they read your applications when you interview, and that they took the effort to try to learn about you, well, of course, you're going to feel comfortable and wanted, and you're going to feel like you're going to fit in that program. So, and it may, that may be a false thing too, because let me tell you, like, we have 5 people to interview, but we have 85 faculty. So, and when you come to resident, you got to deal with the 85 faculty, not only with the 5 faculty that are interviewing, or with the residents that are smiling or are putting a show on social media and all that stuff. I mean, you get to step into a world that most of it you just don't know. So it's really, really hard to assess this fit until you rotate. So what I would say is just try to make sure that you can sense that the residents are happy. That's the one thing I would put number 1 in my list. If you think the residents there are unhappy, that I would put a red flag. But then the rest of it, just try to put some effort, put the importance in location. Does it offer the things that you want? Does it has the resources that you need? Is this, do you like to be staffed out in every studio? You like to have independence? All those things that you can actually factually check. It's more important than how you're going to feel, because in all programs, no matter where you go, you're going to find some faculty that you work with that you're going to love, and you're going to find other faculty that you'll be like, I really hate this place. And it's just the way it is. I don't think that's going to vary too much from program to program. So that would be my recommendation about assessing the fit. Anyways.
It's great advice. Tara, anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really hard in any setting, whether you're virtual or in person, to really have a sense of what it's like. Sometimes when you walk into a place, you can sense the air of appreciative inquiry, and sometimes you can't. And I think you can get that sense a little bit from talking to the residents in these pre-event activities. Watch the interactions, I think, is important between the people on the calls. We do in our program a Q&A, and part of what we do is we purposely banter, because I think that gives people an insight into how we interact with each other as individuals. And it probably sounds goofy and a little bit hokey to people who are on the call, but I think that they can get a sense that we actually like each other and we get along with each other, and we know enough about each other and our residents' interests and what they like, and teasing them, that they can see a little bit of what that culture kind of looks like. And the other part of fit, I think, is, again, assessing what your core values and what your interests are in the program. If you're somebody who really loves research and you've published 17,000 papers on the left parotid gland, and you're looking at a program that is very much a clinically oriented place where they do educational scholarship, but they don't really have a lot of research, and they tell you that they don't have research support, you're really going to want to look at that closely, because that's going to lead to disappointment when it doesn't align with what your goals are. So that, I think, is a much more important fit than anything else, is figuring out, is this something that will meet your needs in terms of what your career aspirations are?
Neal or Yasha, anything to add to that?
Again, I think Dr. Gomez and Dr. Catanzano hit that on the nail, but it's a tough question, especially when we're not able to visit these places in person. It's funny, I talked to a lot of the residents that I'm working with here at UVA, like the upper levels, and I asked them, in preparation for this, when you guys were actually interviewing in person, what drove you to UVA? And every single one of them had the same answer for me. They came to UVA saying that, it wasn't a program that they were really considering until they came here, because it's in Charlottesville, not a place many people have heard of. And so they said that it was coming here and meeting the residents that really sold them on the place. They're like, the second we got here, we were sold. And I think that goes to actually hurt some programs that need that in-person interview to really show what they have. But, back to what Dr. Catanzano was saying, I think for me, I remember specifically in the pre-interview dinners, the residents that were kind of bantering with each other, or even the ones that were all in the room together, and it wasn't a bunch of individual Zoom windows, and you could tell that they were all at different places. Those are the programs that I was like, okay, this has a culture that I feel like I would mesh well with. They seem to actually be getting along with each other, hanging out with each other, knowing each other. So just small things like that. It wasn't really what they were saying, but more of what they were saying to each other and how they were interacting with each other and treating each other, that sold me on the culture. And so it's a hard thing to gauge, but I think there just have to be small things that you look for. If diversity is something that's important to you, I don't think it's so much what the program is saying, but look at the residents they've taken, look at their faculty, things like that. That goes miles beyond what they're actually saying on some Zoom presentation. It's more so what they're doing. So just things like that, I would say.
Yeah, I think what Neal said is really important. It's a lot of it isn't said to you up front, right? Especially when it comes to fit. A lot of it is like reading between the lines and doing your own legwork. If there's only 2 residents showing up to the interview dinner, like maybe you should take that as a sign that people are too busy, or they're tired, or they're preoccupied, or they're on call. Like you really have to start. And of course, it depends on program size. Like 3 people for my program is 25% of our entire program. So you have to think about it like that. But it is important to think like diversity, as Neal said. It's not like a program anyone can say, we are super diverse and we really value it. But actually putting that into action is different, right? So really do your homework. A lot of programs send out videos and tours and sample conferences, for example. You have to watch them. I mean, I know it's like, as an applicant, you're doing this like 30 times, and it's really tiring. But at the end of the day, you're the only person who's going to benefit from doing it, or you're the only person who's going to get hurt from not doing it. So it only benefits you to just take the time, sit down, evaluate, see if you enjoy how the faculty are interacting with the residents during the conference, because that could be you. And you're only doing yourself a disservice if you don't take that extra step. And as Neal said, I think it's important to just talk to everyone that you can. Lots of us are available on social media, but I know that if you have like a personal relationship with some residents that you maybe rotated with or something, they don't have to be at the program that you want to go to or that you're wondering about. But even if you're in the same area, or even just as being a resident for 5 years, like I kind of hear about things of different programs. So just ask around. Depending on how close you are with that resident, you might get better or worse information, like more dirt, as they say. But like that is one way to assess, what's really happening at the programs. Are people really happy or not? And so building those relationships can help too.
I think that's really great advice. And I think that each of you described in terms of fit something a little bit different in terms of the definition of fit. And I think that especially with the virtual interview season, things that we previously knew has just kind of been thrown out. So, I think you provided really great advice. And, I've been involved with interview season the last couple of years virtually. And gosh, it's so different from when you're in person with the applicants. So my heart definitely goes out to all the medical students who have been having to go through the virtual interview season, and hopefully you took away some good points in terms of assessing fit, especially in this virtual environment. So now we're going to shift gears to prelim programs, transitional programs. Does it matter, which program do you do, which prelim program you do, or if you do prelim program versus transitional program, will one prepare you over the other when you are a first-year radiology resident? So I'm going to start with Neal.
So again, I think this is a tough question, but I think the answer is probably pretty simple in that it really doesn't matter. I'll let Dr. Catanzano and Dr. Gomez come in and give their thoughts because they're program directors. They have tons of insight on this. They can probably say if one helps residents more than the other. But I think the simplest solution is just do what makes you happy. If that means finding a program that works you much less than some other program, then do that. If that means going to prelim program that's at the same categorical institution that you hope to match to, then do that. If that means staying at the institution you're at right now, staying at home, being able to live with your parents, something like that, then do that. I think it just, intern year is tough. You can take that from me. I'm doing it right now. You don't have a lot of time. It's trying. It's very different than anything else I've done. And I think the best thing to do is just whatever's going to be easiest and make you the happiest and make the rest of your life easy is probably going to help you the most.
Others.
I guess it doesn't really matter. Hey, that's the magic answer. It doesn't really matter what you do. Look, I got thousands of stories. I did surgery, worked a lot many years ago. A guy who was my classmate did some transitional year in a beach town. He was surfing every day, and we were both radiologists. We know the same. I kind of felt like somebody stabbed me in the back. So just do what is more convenient to you. Might either be geography or be because you want to just have a time, a internship that you can do less, or if you're really hardcore and you want to do surgery. I enjoy my surgery. I've worked a lot, but I enjoy it. I make friends that are still my friends, and I don't regret doing it. But it was not necessary to do it. And the only thing that would matter, if any, is that if you go to the same institution and you learn the system in terms of like where's the building, the referring physicians, how to use the computer, the medical record, that's going to give you like a 1 month head start. That's it. Then people are going to learn how to do it same as you, and it will be pretty much the same. So yeah, the answer is it does not matter as long as it's ACGME accredited.
100% agree. Remember, before 1996, you didn't have to do an internship at all. So all the radiologists who trained before then are just as good as all the ones now. So it doesn't really matter at all.
Anything else to add, Yasha?
I guess I'll just say that I'm in a class of 3 residents, and I did a TY. One of my co-residents did a surgery year, and one of them did a medicine year. And I think that we're all at the same level now as seniors. So there's no difference.
Gosh, and I honestly picked my, I did a transitional year where I did medical school because what if Dr. Gomez had mentioned, like, I already knew the system. I was like, the advice I was getting was it's not going to make a difference. I'm like, I'm just going to stay here. I already know how the referral patterns work, the ordering system, and the EMR. So that's literally like what I decided on. I guess because of the efficiency of it all. But yes, I think in this scheme of things, you maybe have a 1 month head start. But for me, that made a big difference. I'm like, I already know the system. I think I'll just do it here, and I don't think it affected anything with me becoming a radiologist. So, all right, great advice. Well, my final question is about the post interview. So, communication is so important. Now, what do you suggest in terms of the post interview communication? Do you think that your sentiment, as a medical student, their sentiment should be known to you, that, they're going to rank you number one or rank you highly, or, does that really matter? And I'm going to start with Tara, since she's probably deals with lots of communication.
Indeed. I have to say it has certainly tailed off in the last number of years, that we are getting less and less post-interview thank yous or letters of interest. I don't really place a lot of emphasis on them, frankly, having been burned in the past where someone has said, we're going to rank you number one. I'm absolutely going to rank you number one. I'm so coming there. Can you get my wife a residency transfer to there, which the prior program director did. And then they didn't come. So I'm always skeptical. I think whatever you do, if you're going to do it and you're going to send it to multiple people, make sure it's not a copy and paste. Make sure you have the right program name. Don't have any changes in font in the thank you, because that just looks like you're not paying enough attention to detail. Those sorts of things can only hurt you. I don't think, I honestly don't really put a lot of emphasis on them. I don't think it's important anymore.
Dr. Gomez?
Oh boy, after 13 years, I can write a book about funny letters that I've received with different fonts, different names, forgot to change something. Don't do that. Anyway, I don't know why we should send 80 letters of interest. It's ridiculous to me. And obviously, well, first of all, if you're going to do it, send a short note. We're all very busy. We don't have time to read your whole CV again in a letter. And it doesn't really matter. I think if a letter of intent, some people will put some, importance because you're supposed to only send one and you trust people to be honest. To be honest, you don't receive that many. We have 13 slots at UT San Antonio, and we may receive 2 of them a year. And obviously it can help because that somebody really, really wants to be there. I would stay away from, I'm going to rank you in my top 3, or I'm going to rank you in my top 5. I would just skip that. That's just a waste of time. And you're pretty much saying, we're not going to rank you number 1, but we like you. And nobody likes to hear that. I mean, we're proud people. We don't want to hear that. So I will skip it. I mean, thank you note is really nice, very short, a few sentences. I enjoy my interview, talking to this, some personal notes about your conversation. It's always nice. I like to read them, and because I know it takes time for people to take the effort to do it. But just keep it short, simple. State what you want to state. Don't repeat your CV. Don't send generic letters, and only send 1 letter of intent. That's it. That's very simple.
Anything to add, Neal or Yasha?
I can kind of speak to what I did, and it might not be the right or wrong advice. I would go based off, the 2 program directors that just spoke to you. I sent 1 letter of intent to my top program, and like Dr. Gomez was saying, I think I put 2 to 3 lines of specifically why I was so attracted to them, why they were my number 1, and that was it. I've had a number of people come to me, ask me, should I just send letter of intents to my top 5? And like Dr. Gomez was saying, I think anything other than a letter saying you're my number 1 is just a letter saying you're not my number 1. And I can't imagine that helps you. It probably just hurts you. And then just don't lie. Don't send 5 people emails saying you're my number 1, because at the end of the day, all the program directors talk, all the programs talk, they all know each other. It's just a bad foot to step out on. You don't want to start your training with people saying that this person lied to me. You don't know where you'll end up for fellowship, for your job. So just play it fair, play it right. but I don't think it hurts to send at least one letter to your top program saying, you're my number one, so thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I have nothing really more to add than that. Just don't lie and send a letter to your number one. Give real reasons why, not stupid reasons, and hope for the best. That's all you can do.
Yes, I cannot emphasize enough in echoing your sentiments. Radiology is a small tent. We all talk, and whether you're in training, whether you're faculty, so honesty is the best policy in this case. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, those are the questions that I had. I'm going to see if there's any questions that we had from the audience. All right. Okay, it looks like we've addressed a lot of these questions, so that's wonderful. So, in conclusion, I want to go around and each of you, first of all, thank you so much for being here today and imparting your expertise. I think you have benefited many medical students watching this and who will be watching this, as this will be available after the live broadcast. But I would like each of you to impart a takeaway pearl. What do you think is most important in terms of optimizing the rank list? So we'll start with Tara.
Figure out what it is you really want to get out of your residency program. Make sure that your values match what the program can offer you, and just be happy.
Great. Neal.
I mean, very similar to what Dr. Catanzano just said, but just do what makes you happy. At the end of the day, nothing else is going to matter. The Doximity rankings aren't going to matter. What your friends think aren't going to matter. Just do what's going to make you happy, make your life easiest.
Yasha.
Yeah, I have basically the same takeaway. And I'll just add that you don't know where your life is going to take you in 5 years. So make sure that you're honest with yourself so that you can be happy in every phase of your life throughout those few years.
And Angel.
Yeah, just do what you truly believe you want, and rank all the programs that you think you see yourself going. Do not rank a program that you hate, and you don't know. If you don't see a program, you don't want to. Don't do this. I'd rather be miserable for years and be a radiologist and don't match. Don't do that, because you're gonna suffer a lot. You're gonna make a lot of people suffer. So rank all the programs that you like, but if you don't like a program, please don't rank it. We program directors don't rank people that we think are going to be trouble or they're going to be a good fit to our programs. We don't rank them. You should do the same out of respect, and it will be the best for you. Don't let others persuade your decision. Rank what you like first. Doesn't matter what it is or for whatever reasons it is. Doesn't matter if you think they like you or not. Rank them according to what you like. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to say this a million times. It doesn't really matter if a program likes you or not. Just rank them first if you like them. And last, I hope you'll match. But if you do not match, and I've had a lot of mentees through the years because I mentor a lot of international medical graduates that have not matched, take a deep breath. It's not the end of the world. It is very painful, but I've mentored a lot of people that maybe don't match the first year, but they end up matching if they do the right things. And if you look for the right mentors and you do the things that you should do. So I know we're not talking about no matching, but there's always a probability for that. And if it happens, take a little time for yourself, but it's not the end of the world. Trust me. There's light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to keep digging and looking for your space on how you're going to get more visibility and get to the place that you want. Thank you.
That was great advice, and I'm so glad that you threw that in there as well. So I wholeheartedly agree. So thank you, all of you, for being here this evening. Thank you to those that are viewing this journal club today. We appreciate your time, and until next time, we'll see you again, the JSR Journal Club. Good evening.